The day of the show finally arrived, and I was psyched. I had all the concert essentials, money, weed, and a pint of Southern Comfort. We drank and smoked with the other concert goers on the train to Manhattan. I was so proud that once again I was going to potentially score with an older chick. This time I swore I was not going to fuck it up like I did with Superbush. You have to get the book to read that one. I really did my best to act cool and mature. By the time we got off at the 34th Street, I had the munchies bad. We stopped at one of those nasty pizza places they have near the Garden. She warned me not to eat too much with all the alcohol I had consumed, but I was hungry and assured her very confidently that I could handle my liquor. I bragged about my ability to drink people under the table. When we arrived at the pizza spot, I ordered 3 slices, an eggplant Parmesan Hero, half a meatball sub, and a jumbo Coke. She had a slice but didn't finish it, and not wanting to waste food, I finished it for her. When we got into the Garden and up to our seats, the key word here being up, the tickets turned out to be severe nosebleeders. It was funny seeing the look of disgust on her face as the ushers looked at our tickets and kept pointing to the upper levels. By the time we finally sat down, all you could basically see of the stage was a little speck. She was definitely not too happy about it, but I assured her the sound would be great, like I really knew what the fuck I was talking about. AC/DC opened up and they were cool, but I was more interested in getting something going with my date. I tried to kiss her, but she kept pushing me away, saying that she wanted to watch the show. I was like, get with it here. I didn't spend $12.50 on your ticket for you to watch the opening fucking act, lady. It's like this comedian said on BET's Comic View. Oh, when I take a bitch out to dinner, I'll let the bitch know right away there's 2 sides of this menu. This side here with the filet mignon, lobster, and champagne, that's the A side, the pussy side. Now the other side, the $3.99 dinner specials, complete with an 8-ounce non-alcoholic beverage and your choice of greasy fries, that's the B side, the no pussy side. Now you tell me, baby, which side we gonna be eating from? Right now, my date was strictly the B side, and I was pissed. I just played it off and put my arm around her, which she let me get away with. And I was happy enough with that for the time being. I figured once Black Sabbath came out, she would lose it, and I would at least make my way to second base, which was, you know, grabbing a little bit of titty. If you're familiar with the 3 bases and the home run and, you know, all that shit back in the Meatloaf days. In the 1970s, part of the whole concert experience was when the headliner hit the stage, the crowd went crazy, and the girls tongued down their boyfriends in appreciation. Anybody was around back then that remembers that? Guess not. I'm an old motherfucker, man. What can I say, man? The other show ritual was that people used to pass joints, drinks, and all kind of shit around to the people sitting in their section. That was before herpes. They don't do that shit now. That night was no exception. I was passed blackberry brandy, dozens of joints, Southern Comfort, more joints, hash, and now a familiar smell, dust. I smoked 3 dust-laced joints, and I was completely zooted. Nadine Palmiero didn't take a single toke, and at this point, there was 0 conversation between us. The room was spinning. I was higher than I'd ever been in my entire life, and that's when the house lights went out, and everyone cheered and held up their lighters. Holy shit. Black Sabbath was taking the stage. I heard Geezer Butler's bass thump, Bill Ward's snare crack, and Tony Iommi's, actually AJ corrected me, he played a Gibson SG, not a Les Paul. Where's my editor? He's fired. I'm supposed to check that out. I heard Tony Iommi's Les Paul guitar wail, then Ozzy screamed, "Hello, New York!" I couldn't even begin to tell you what song they opened up with. But I remember the music was so fucking loud, I felt it in my bone marrow. The explosion of white stage light flashed brighter than the sun, illuminating the entire arena. I also distinctly remember that I never got my kiss. I was in my own world, but I still managed to drink and smoke some more during the first few songs. After about the 3rd song, Everyone was sitting down, and Ozzy was talking shit on stage. My head was spinning, and I was starting to feel the pizza, meatball, and eggplant parmesan subs and Coca-Cola mixed with 8 different types of alcohol and smokables all talking back to me, loudly, screaming as a matter of fact. Now, to puke at a concert was the greatest mortal sin imaginable. Only chumps did it, so there was no way I was getting put in that category. Nadine looked over at me and asked if I was okay because she said I looked green. Green? Shit. I felt like hell as the contents of my stomach were doing continuous loops. I told her I was fine and even managed to sneak in a quick peck on her cheek. Then I heard it, that unmistakable bass drum kick and heavy guitar intro before Ozzy screamed, "I am Iron Man." I immediately jumped up and shouted, "Oz!" And before I got to the Z, out came the biggest flood of projectile vomit you've ever seen in your life. Since I was way up in the blue section at the Garden, it sprayed out and covered every single person within a 20-foot radius. I mean, you actually heard the uhs over the thunderous music. This was preceded by a loud chorus of people calling me a fucking douchebag, asshole, and scumbag motherfucker. Yes, boys and girls, I chumped out, and it smelt like shit up there. Thanks to me, the people around me who was so cool before would now have to sit through the entire concert covered in my stomach regurgitation, and they were pissed. Nadine was totally embarrassed, and she moved 2 seats away from me in disgust. I looked up at her with mozzarella and Parmesan cheese dangling off my chin, my breath smelling like shit, and I still had the balls to blurt out, "Can I have that kiss now?" She flipped me off. I attempted to speak again, but before I could get the words out again, I covered my peers with cheap Italian food. Now I had people seriously wanting to kick my ass. They were like, "Puke on the floor, asshole." And I'm like, puke on the floor? How the hell was I going to see Ozzy if I puked on the floor? I let out another raging flood of undigested 34th Street specials, and that was that. I slouched in my seat, hunched over, and don't even remember the rest of the concert. What I do remember is that Nadine woke me up when the show was over. The house lights were on, and the place was basically empty except for the Garden employees cleaning up and a few of the other fuckers who were in a similar state of consciousness. I spent the entire 2-hour train ride puking my brains out between subway cars. Nadine was so pissed off because somebody was tapping while I'm trying to fucking read. Who let this guy in here? Nadine was so pissed off that she wouldn't even talk to me. She became strike number 2 on my list of dating experiences, and at that point, I promised myself there wouldn't be a third. Anyway, that was from my first concert experience.